How far? I asked, glancing up at Star as the larger Earth pony walked beside me. Half a day across the desert, and we have to start searching for this Destiny facility. Which, no offense, has become more complicated. He grumbled quietly, glancing at our companion following behind me. My ears fell flat, while I head ducked in shame upon hearing his disapproving tone. Cherry clung close to my tail. She was still the same anxious wreck, and that anxiety was swiftly mutating to depression with her starting to realize that she was holding us back from moving in the manner we usually would in order to accomplish our goals as quickly as we otherwise might have. Nevertheless, it seemed under all the cold dread of her recent trauma, that brave pony that had taken action against the slavers was still kicking. My expenses at the gun store had allowed me to glimpse that side of her. She ran close to a filly in the candy shop, a filly with the financial support to purchase almost anything that store had to offer. Even so, after only a few moments of looking over the state of the stock, I was surprised that the roller she'd purchased even worked as well as it did, although I'd failed to mention that to her. Instead, most of my attention was spent on accepting her gratitude and assuring her she could have whatever she wanted. Okay, so maybe not everything. I was convinced she would have cleared out the place had I not limited her to a set of armor and 2 firearms. It had taken her long to set her eyes on some barding, an old modified set of stable utility barding, bearing the number 5, the last digit. If there had been one, had long since been scorched off. I had a nagging feeling it had come from Stable 54, yet another reverted shithole to the southeast. Regardless of its cursed origin, it was protection. I had survived with less beforehand by the sounds of the radio transmissions issued recently by other ponies. Bad ponies were taking over the desert with nothing any better. Add to her arsenal a worn old assault rifle and a combat shotgun that was in no better condition. And I felt the need to give her something that was at least reliable. I told Zapsat that it would see some use and some use it would see, even if it wasn't in my house. I just really hoped we didn't get into a situation in which she had to use it. Maybe I shouldn't have dragged her back out in the wasteland then. My mind snickered sourly. I just knocked a worry thought to the floor with a metal buck to the face. We've had this discussion, Brain. I demand that you cease any further thoughts regarding this matter. Even so, Cherry was no serious wasteland hardened pony. She was, however, a beneficial addition to our team. Her excellent aptitude with bartending and locks were both traits I convinced myself would be incredibly useful for ponies in our occupation. Yeah, if she's not dead. Just shut up, Brain. After seeing to it that she was properly kitted out, and Amy saying bye to yet more of my caps, we swiftly departed. Firstly, because I didn't want to have to keep Star Ring. Secondly, I didn't want that bitch Defar finding out that I was taking her waitress on a far longer run than I'd pay for. Part of me just hoped she'd think that glimpse of Cherry last night was a dream or something. Nevertheless, she wasn't getting the pink mare back anytime soon. If I'm getting in the way, I could... Cherry's tremulous voice trailed off at Star's look of disapproval. The sound of her murmuring summoned me back from my slightly shameful mental argument with my mental reasoning. I'd hope she hasn't heard what we just said. By his quiet tone, I assumed Star had intended her to hear his issue either. My experienced partner, Star, and Cherry, the greenhorn to this line of work, were still wary of each other. I guess she was simply unnerved by something she didn't know. Her far larger and far more solidly built telling at that. I told her that she had to follow my orders without question. The mere act of demanding her trust and obedience stung at first, but I knew that the wasteland would be far less forgiving. Asking her to trust Star, however, was slightly more troublesome. In spite of his years of experience surviving and prospering in this line of work, I simply hoped she'd only have to take orders from me, which meant I'd have to stick with her whenever we went. As a result, I could see just why this had become far more complicated for my larger companion. She wasn't a liability. I was. I was one who insisted on bringing a complete greenhorn out into the wasteland on a mission which was difficult for even experienced mercenaries such as Star and myself to accomplish. We weren't taking her out on beginner grade missions to build up her skill and experience, as we might have otherwise have done. We were now already deep into wasteland territory and currently in the middle of a mission we had accepted. I glanced back at the pink mare as her gaze lingered cautiously upon the huge buck during his saddle-mounted minigun, flamethrower, and his fearsome looking at her flesh-rending spiked armor. She may as well be looking at some rider's tank. And you thought it was a good idea to convince a traumatized pony that something like that was a friend? My brain admonished in dry amusement. I shaked this snide mental comment off, replacing the thought with a quick response to Cherry's stuttered words. No, I just want you to sit close to me. I was almost on the brink of reciting the whole don't run the gunfire, don't step in front of a loaded weapon, don't go swimming into a raider den and the likes routine, when more of that admonishing gale washed over me. Damn it, Dragonfire, she isn't a fool. Add to the fact that I knew she'd agree with almost anything I told her because her fear that I'd abandon her if she did not. And that remorse only grew like an already heavy milestone around my neck being replaced with an even larger and even heavier milestone. Why was I doing this? Of all the ponies in the wasteland, of all the ponies you could have saved, why this one? I go so far to help her. This frustrating question kept repeating over and over in my mind. I merely sighed. The argument that she was a pony who, among all others, was just trying to help finally forcing me to admit that there was a deeper emotional attachment forced upon me by the traumatic events of our first meeting. It certainly had resurrected a part of me which had long lain dormant. I still hated myself for what I'd seen in that office. Not the raider mare or the fool, but myself. I'd seen the whole wasteland. The whole messed up reality pony kind squad about it. And it was that which that broken me? I realized that my ensuing time spent with her had established and strengthened the bond I had with very few ponies. Despite recognizing the moment in which I had formed a bond with Cherry, I was still no closer to an answer as to why I formed my bond with her when I had not permitted myself to have such vulnerabilities presented by having bonds with non-battle-hardened companions. I let out a long breath, my eyes still upon Cherry. I could see that under the frail vial of caution she was contemplating what I just told her, considering whether she was really with the right ponies. I swallowed, finding the words formulating in my head hard to stomach. And yet I bore no desire to get them out. No, you don't have to stay with us. I mean, you can by all means, but... I stammered, the fear of her leaving me clogging my throat. She glanced about, looking anywhere but at Star or myself. I probably won't be able to find my way back, she admitted tentatively, her eyes finally looking upon me. I tried to make the smile I felt from her shy confession as far from patronizing as I could. Once again, I simply found her cute. The fact that I was swiftly turning my head upside down, especially after the way I felt about her outside the gun store. Wow, I didn't know wannabe heroes turned you on, Dragonfire? My mind snickered, using a mockery of Star's voice. I mentally constructed a stable, into which I showed psychological effort and sighed before proceeding to securely lock the damn bunker before flooding the stable with something nasty, such as plasma or cyanide. Then instantly blurted something to distract myself from the ideas. Alack and alas, that our strings of fate should twine together and so journey with yon brute mare. Oh, woe is us! I behaved dramatically, turning my face to face Cherry and lasciviously wriggling my eyebrows at her. Despite everything, she smiled slightly at that, her expression only confusing my usual set impulses even more. I fought to redirect my eyes away, but instead the rebellious orbs dragged my gaze over her shoulders past her middle and back towards her. Look, her hind hoof is all better. She is walking fine now. The potions have done their work and we have more unnecessary. Come on, Dragonfire, let's not kid yourself. You want to do more than just look at her sharply hind leg, don't you? I swiftly changed the subject again, dragging the lustful idea back into a corner for harsh words later. I needed more distraction. Yes, distractions were good. With that, I yanked my gaze away from her. Thankfully obvious, mere into the middle of nowhere. So much for distractions. Not even raiders operated this deep into the desert. Nothing but the sand blowing and the scorching wind. The horizon was broken only by dunes trailing streams of sand from their peaks and the towering red mesa far to the northeast. Straggly mutated cacti broke up the emptiness as did parched desert rocks, and the odd pile of rusted scrap. I never really understood how this place even got so hot or even why it was a desert. It rained buckets here most of the time, not to mention none of it has seen the sun in centuries. Underhoof, the cracked remains of a road were just visible beneath the invading sands. A long line of scorched asphalt stretching off into the distant dunes. Beyond were the ragged brown outlines of hills, distinguishable from their flat-topped cousins to the west by their jagged peaks and like of blood-red stone. And the miles beyond them was the city of New Pegasus, a length we, fortunately, didn't have to traverse. As for our mysterious destination, I really hoped we'd be able to find it quickly. A part of me even imagined giant signs telling us exactly where to go, or even one of those monstrous smiling MLM billboards. Those, I knew, were frail hopes. Like Sora said, this was going to be far harder than that, with half of my focus divided, thanks to the addition of Cherry to our team. So, you get any leads on this place while you were in town? I asked Star, seeking yet more distractions. He looked down on me, knowing full well the question was not one I'd be asking under normal circumstances. If it was normal, then I'd be either boasting, joking, or promoting some sexual fantasy. No, he knew I was avoiding the trimming of complications. Look, I'm not blaming you for anything, he told me firmly. All I'm worried about is that you're becoming attached. More than usual. And certainly not in the same way as usual. Usually you never bring complete Neophyte on an advanced grade mission such as this. I also know that you would usually never allow your attention to be divided as it is right now, he added, never one to mince words. I glanced away from him, sensing the concern in his tone and praying Cherry couldn't hear it. Dragonfire, I know you. I also know what would happen if something did happen, and she isn't ready for this kind of life. Instead of dragging her into the dangerous wasteland, you should have arranged for her to travel with a trading caravan that was heading back to Churn and find her work there while we took care of our mission, he continued warningly. If such a thing had been said by any other pony, I'd have bucked them until next Tuesday. Star was right. He was right most of the time. In fact, he was nearly always right. And to think, I claimed that I was the smart one. I knew what he was worried about. He was not worried for his sake, but for mine. Yeah, I just couldn't leave Cherry with that slight bitch back in town. I wanted to live through the same experience over and over, especially the mental bagging of her recent encounter with the Raiders. The image of that manipulative red associated stallion flashed in my mind. I had to rein in my murderous thoughts. Nor would I let her travel back to Churn alone. Yeah, once I was back there with her, I could get her a place. I'd let her share mine if needed, as long as she was safe and happy. Life was almost perfect there. So close to perfect that I heard. For her, I trot the extra mile to make it perfect. Why? God knows I didn't know why, but I knew many aspects of my twisted brain were telling me it was the right thing to do. My thoughts were shattered a moment later, however. My ears twitched upward as my head rose, catching a distant sound carrying on the dusty wind. A gunshot. Star heard it too, stopping with a metallic clatter and looking up over the wind-blown desert. Snuff rifle. I'd say high caliber, he stated, sniffing the dusty, arid air. My visor sparked to life, having been dormant over my eyes to prevent needlessly draining my magic useless the situation called for it. Cautiously, my horn flared, drawing one of my plasma rifles and bringing it into the air before me. Another shot carried on the dry wind a moment later. I slipped back to my new companion. My eyes and targeting matrix scanned the desert horizons in all directions. Cherry, listen closely, I said firmly. By her frightened look, I knew she heard the shot too, even if she was fighting to hide it. Cherry! I asked, almost shouting. She tensed as my words were a lifeline dragging her back from a torn panic. Now listen, you stay right by me and do exactly what I say, okay? I instructed firmly. She flinched, but Nana drew her assault rifle with her lime green hued magic. I almost winced at that, the hope she never had to kill under my instructions rapidly fading as I'd always known it would. Another shot stole my attention. The lack of anybody being injured, dying or bullets impacting in the ground indicated that the shots were not directed at us. At least not yet. Don't think we got raiders. Slaver caravan, maybe, Star reasoned, examining his surrounding environment cautiously before he took a heavy step forward. Stay behind me. Only use that if you have to, I commanded Cherry, the words tasting bitter on my tongue as I reluctantly motioned towards the assault rifle. A moment later I turned back to the direction of the sound, my gun hovering so that I was looking down the sight. You see anything? I called Star. He gave no response as his eyes strived to see into the wind-blown dust storm. Then I saw something. A shimmer in the brown cloud. My matrix marked nothing. The target was too distant and too hidden in the dust. Got something on the left, I advised, queuing for a while redirecting the barrel of my rifle. I got nothing, Star added wearily. My eyes narrowed as something emerged from the dusty road ahead. The shape was blurred at first, but as we approached, the mangled metal skeleton of an old sky chariot became clear. All that was left was the corroded, rusty frame, eaten away by the harsh extremes of the unforgiving desert. The bubbling decay appeared like a swarm of ravenous insects as time feasted upon the metal. Beyond the wagon, the shimmer flashed again, this time right ahead. Alright, Star, straight ahead, I warned him, even though both my visor and my eyes were still picking up nothing but the visibility reducing cloud and dust. I got it. Can't make out what it is yet, he added, squinting into the cloud. A moment later, and we searched the broken remains of the sky wagon. It was empty, save a few scorched books and two dustbin skeletons, one of which had been the Pegasus pulling the thing. Though ignoring the bones, I wasn't hit by the woeful thought regarding who this pony had once been. Instead, I was reminded just how much I hated Pegasi. I downed any wastelander who knew the truth about the sky liked them. Exhibit A, the frickin' clouds. This one had gone what he deserved long ago, assuming the warped and remains were those of a Brock. Regardless, his former chariot now provided us with some stopping point as well as cover from both the dust storm and was potentially a hostile inhabitants which might be nearby. Right here with her. I'll check ahead, Star ordered grimly, stepping around the wrecked chariot without concern for the brittle bones of the departed, which he crushed under his metal hoofs. I nodded acknowledgement, but he didn't even glance our way. First rule of combat, keep your head down, I advised Sherry as Star departed deeper into the dust storm. The experienced mercenary in me almost forced me to push her head down with my hoof. Yeah, I decided against touching her. Experience and danger would instruct her in ways I could not. Even so, I knew it was not the best way to build her confidence back. And I'll even admit being firm with her was hard as I did not know when my firmness was too much. When it was just enough. When I wasn't being firm enough. As she nodded in agreement, the memory of Red's sickening misuse of Pony's trust only made my insides crawl that bit more. The head star's large armored shape was no more than a ghostly silhouette against the swirling sand. He'd stopped, his gaze spanning the horizon. My eyes did the same, and another shot rang from the north. This time far closer. Star didn't even flinch. It wasn't the target. As far as I could tell, neither were we. Cherry jumped with a weak eep, startled by the much closer sound. In the moment I had to think faster than ever. The flicker appeared to the right. Number of targets. 1. My advisor declared. My eyes widened. Without hesitation I toppled my startled companion, forcing her to the scorched asphalt. The shot sounded with a loud crack. There was a sharp whistle over the dusty wind, and then an equally swift thudding as the bullet struck my dragon-scaled armor. A dull pain blossomed from my back, leaving a bruise as the force was disrupted by the scales. A moment later it was confirmed that this shot had gone unnoticed. It was a lowering of Star's minigun as the shooter with a hail of lead. All I did was look down at the tensed mirror under me. My breath was quick and shallow, my body gasping for whatever air it could after the bullet impact. My heart was thudding like a rapid tempo on the drum of war inside of my chest. Warm blood raced through my veins. Then I realized how I had positioned on top of Cherry, and a great deal of the blood went to my cheeks. For a moment, all I could do was confirm to myself that she was still alive. If I had been even a moment slower, she'd be blood splattered on the dusty road. My mind lingered on the grotesque vision as I harshly berated myself for the danger I was bringing her into. I closed my eyes tightly, trembling as I fought not to hug her. Raider victims. No touchy-touchy. Instead, I continued to assure myself that she was still there, that she was still alive, as I cautiously moved off of her. Then I began to realize that Star's concerns regarding were much more real. I had made this far harder for everyone involved, especially for myself. Whoa there! I am looking for a firefighter! A distant voice wailed from over the roar of the minigun. Star Trek's rain of bullets halted as my head rose and I looked up where the shot had rang out from. Instantly, my visor outlined the shape of an earth pony buck in the sand. It was swiftly highlighted as non-hostile. Yeah, I assumed that was only after he laid his scoped rifle on the sand dune beside him. Green? My shimmering anger set in. He'd shot me. He nearly killed Cherry, and my visor declared him friendly. I was beginning to doubt my own expertise. You sure this is a good idea? Another gruff voice called. Then came the distant sound of wings overhead. I crouched down low, expecting an ambush as I saw the armored silhouette of a griffin pass over me. Yet she didn't attack. Instead, the shadow disappeared into the storm in the direction of the others. My expression was soured further as the other green outline appeared. Yet, at least she had been the one to shoot first. Come out to where I can see you, both of you. Star's voice boomed into the visibility-reducing dust storm. I brought up my plasma rifle. Our would-be attackers entering within firing range and marked. If my visor was right, then I shouldn't need a gun. On the other hoof, my super well-designed, supposed to be my best-worked visor, wasn't always right. Apparently. I stood back, helping my rather shocked companion up onto her hoofs. You okay? I asked, giving her a fleeting glance. Yeah, that was just, well, scary, she murmured, brushing herself off. Just gave her a nod. She gladly took the opportunity for the non-verbal communication with an appreciative expression. Instead, she opted for retrieving her rifle from the asphalt. Whoa there! I didn't mean to take no shots at y'all, the buck emerging from the sand shroud declared. His accent went strangely well with his sandy yellow coat and brown mane. It also, I know, entirely explained the seemingly unintentional camouflage against the sand. Behind was a gray feathered griffin was skulking warily, her sharp yellow eyes locked on us. Taking a step forward, I held my rifle up, Shari mimicking my potentially aggressive stance by raising her own weapons. It was then that I noticed that our attacker's cutie mark was a broken ball in the process of being shattered by a pebble. Sure looks like you did it to me, I growled, holding the plasma rifle up to his head as he stopped. He gulped, and his feathered companion looking like she thought everyone, but herself, What an idiot. I just prayed to the gods that she stayed green. As long as they were green, then they were not monsters and not something I'd shoot. To the new Buck's credit, he had left his rifle up on the dune and aside from some thin barding on his saddlebags. He was unarmed and unarmored. The same could not be said for the Griffin. Yet all of her weapons were at least holstered in one of the ragged black harness griffins called barding. Sorry about back there. Guess y'all were more than them darn vermin, the Buck said in an apologetic tone, the likes of which turned sour at the mention of vermin. Is that so? You know, you could have waited for me to check it out first before you shoot, the griffin scowled. He just scowled at her. Oh, and yet, would ya have done anything different? He challenged, as her opinion of his idiocy levels seemed to double. All I have done exactly what my contract states, and my contract includes a stimulation of protecting your dumb ass. You're making my job hard by shooting anything that moves. Your damn wild shooting is going to piss someone off, and then they'll decide to frickin' end you. You know they have to walk over my damn corpse to do so, she hissed, pointing a talon at him accusingly. He merely scoffed at the idea, almost seeming insulted, and the griffin simply sighed. You know, I swear I had to have been wasted beyond belief that day I said I'd help you, she moaned. Her guard seemingly slipped as she did so. Oh, I didn't hire you to shoot up responsible-looking folks, he added, looking at him nervously as if to test his assumption of reasonable. I relaxed a little, evaluating how fair of an excuse it was. 1. It was dusty. 2. You were hiring and mostly obscured. Then the positive stopped. 3. We were ponies, not some damn vermin, whatever that meant. Regardless, that combined with his seemingly humble surrender was enough to loosen my magical grip on the trigger. What vermin? Sir asked, his minigun's barrel poised at the Buck's facial regions. I could see the sandy pony fought not to squirm. The griffin regarded the situation carefully, yet didn't seem too eager to intervene as if this was some sort of lesson for her client. At that, I was beginning to believe them. However, no raider would do this, and no slayer would be brave enough to do what looked to be the right thing. My gun's crackling green barrel waved slightly. How about a name first? I asked in a slightly more inviting tone, and not at plasma-enhanced gunpoint. You can see his posture partially relaxed my aggressive stance. Star's mini-gun position would decide whether he'd be able to relax any further. Well, he glanced at the heavy weapon's barrel nervously. I looked at my companion, and with a short turn of his armored bulk, the weapon moved away from our would-be attacker's eyes. Now his relief was more visibly expressed. I could swear that I saw a slight smirk across the griffin's beak. My name's Buckshot. This is Gina, he mentioned to the griffin. Pleased to meet you, and, sorry again for shooting you, he explained in a nervously friendly tone. Keeping a worried eye trained on a newly identified Buckshot, I returned my weapon to its holster. I either, as his bodyguard had implied, this Buck was really stupid or he really didn't mean to shoot us. Most dangerous things in the wasteland. Nevertheless, he was unarmed. Unarmored, and most importantly, he was green. Vermin? Star asked again, looking down over the standing Buck, then at the griffin, as if it were somehow her responsibility. She seemed to know that all too well and frowned sourly. Yeah, darn thing's got my caravan. We were all set up over yonder when a group of those little scaly bastards came out and jumped us, he responded, his very tone quickly growing to one of irritation at the thought of the scaly bastards he described. They would have if you'd have waited for me to check the place out first, Gina told him with frustration, but he merely shook of the idea. I ain't met no career that I couldn't handle, he retorted proudly. Yeah, until now, she retorted with a loud huff. Her rebukes there be earning her another sour glance from her client. I focused on the scaly description. There are only a few creatures that matched in this part of the wasteland. Gods, stand round tails, and more likely geckos. I'd had a fair amount of encounters with both. The former was easily avoided. If you stayed clear of their dens, and then they wouldn't chase you to the next town and back. Given that Buckshot was still here and none of those scaly creatures were pursuing him, I assumed it was the latter. Geckos. There is definitely no shortage of them around here. Those little frickers were almost called the rod roaches in the Mojave. Like their mutated arthropod counterparts, the oversized lizards were easy enough to deal with, providing you couldn't encounter the fire-breathing or poison variants. I assume you mean geckos? I asked bluntly, confident in my assumption. Buckshot looked at me, his eyes narrowing at the same. If y'all mean the little lizard frickers, then yeah, there's a whole bunch of them crawling about down there, he explained, thus confirming my suspicions. Beside him, I could almost see steam rising from Gina's feathers at the reminder. I gave the town the a sly smile. And you can handle that, I taunted. Her eyes narrowed as she flexed one of her sharp black tongues. I'll show you just what I can handle, she warned. My smile didn't fade her frustration, however, and I just nodded. Oh, I don't doubt that, I added slightly. She looked like she was fighting the urge to take one of her revolvers and shoot every last one of us. So where exactly are these geckos? I asked Buckshot, glancing ahead of or any more indications. Old wagon stop, just down that way. Was holed up there last night. That's where those little frickers jumped us, he explained shamefully. I wish you'd have lasted the whole night. We were there in no more than an hour, you idiot, Gina corrected barely, forcing her companion to scowl once again. Scratch my previous thought. Now they just seemed embarrassed to have been bested by geckos. I took a dry breath from the standing concoction that was the desert air. Here's right, those geckos were right in our way, and going around in these conditions were not an option. Best case scenario, we lose the road in storm. Whereas our rod glass storm would blow in from the sheen and cuts into radioactive giblets in seconds. Add to that the fact we need a place to rest for tonight, and I'd mapped out our next move. I glanced back at Cherry, who was looking at the sandy bug before me. Wait. No, she was looking past him. Despite still being slightly startled by the gunshot, her eyes had become fixed of the finely maintained golden-rimmed sniper rifle that had unleashed it. My look turned curious, then concerned. I'd almost lost her only a moment ago to the gun she was gawking at. There was a risk of such a thing repeating itself just over the next hill. All but death by gecko. Could I keep this up? Was I doing the right thing? My mind repeatedly asked these questions as if they were a percussive beat. But she was still here, ready to fight and brave the wasteland with me. Only because I offered her something slightly better than her previous life. Only because she was too afraid she lost the opportunity if she didn't do what I say. Abusing a pony's trust is not the right thing to do, you know? I stopped a hoof, waking to the surprise of the ponies in front of me as I mentally screamed. No, she was not a fool, she was not some helpless slave. She was not here because I liked her. She was here because she was a pony who tried to make a difference. No matter why, I couldn't let her failure rob her of that ambition. Nor could I let smother another potential light in the dark, shy hole of a world. I failed to notice the faces of the ponies before me while shaking my head. Yes, Dragon, you could save her. Do your job and get her back to Churn. Or you could make her into something to be proud of. Something for her to be proud of. First of all, I'd stop treating her like a fool. She could fight. She has skills we could use. You've already had to save her twice. My mind stated bluntly. No, I could do it a few more times until she was safely back home if she needs to be. For how long? Besides, as long as these vermin were normal geckos, then there was a little problem. I could even make a little lesson out of it. The scaly frickers were that stupid after all. I looked up to Star, forcing a smell that he recognized almost instantly. Y'all up for killing some vermin? I asked, slightly mocking Buckshot's accent as I replaced my plasma rifle with a saddle blaster. His anti-coded bug didn't even blink an eye at my weird mockery. He merely gave a light-hearted chuckle. His companion's humor, on the other hand, didn't seem to be so fake as she snickered. Sour rolled his eyes, but I knew he couldn't say no. If anything, killing geckos was entertaining, in addition to also making the desert that a little bit safer. And he knew as well as I did that the ruins Buckshot had described would at least provide a stopping point for tonight. Above all, we were presented with somebody who needed help. In spite of shooting us, he clearly wasn't a monster. Above all, I made sure to help ponies who needed it.